Um, yeah, welcome everyone. So good to see you, be in your presence. We're gonna open um with a word of prayer and then we'll kind of give a little overview of what we're gonna do tonight and we'll go from there. So, let's pray. Holy God, we thank you for bringing us together from all the places where our bodies, minds, and hearts have been at work. We pray for the peace to be present, offering our distractions and concerns into your trustworthy hands. We ask that you consecrate this time and space for your purpose. We are grateful for the unexpected and transformative ways your story unfolds in our lives. Help us to walk this path with humility and openness to see, hear, and consider what you are doing in a new way. We also lift up the churches we represent, and we ask for your help in doing work that outlasts us. Give us your perspective as we seek to advance justice, mercy, and truth wherever you have called us. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen. Um, So yeah, this evening we're gonna start with our shuffle and share. We're gonna break out into pairs this time, and then we'll actually have a little bit of time for large group share out if you feel so compelled. And then Shauna's going to lead us into the next part, which will unfold, but we're gonna kind of focus on how we on storytelling, basically, how we share the story, not only of what we've been experiencing, but how we think about the work we're doing as story, as narrative. And so Shauna's going to talk more about that. And so, yeah, so our shuffle and share, the question that I want us to think about is what story, this could be a book, TV show, movie, play, song, a story that someone told you, what story has made the biggest impact on you in the past 3 months and why? Um, so what story has made the biggest impact on you in the past 3 months and why? I'll share. Um, for me, I've recently discovered audiobooks and I listened to a book called Everything is Tuberculosis. And it has a very provocative title, but it really made a big impact on me because I think the story was told beautifully and it took a subject that I really didn't think I was interested in, and it like the author wove it through a single person's life and also through the course of history. And it just really like gave me a new perspective on honestly a lot of things, but especially um yeah, like how connected we all are in the world. So, yeah, everything is tuberculosis. That was mine. So, um, we're gonna head into pairs now. So I think those should pop up and go ahead into your pair and you'll have a few minutes to share in there, and then if you want to share when we come back together, you can. Okay. Okay, 5 minutes.
Nicely done, Madam Program Director.
Let me pause.
No problem.
Okay, everyone back? Um, Shauna, thumbs up. Um, okay, we're going to just give a few minutes, because, in case anyone wants to share, um, what they shared in their group, unless you have permission to share what your partner shared. But if you have a story that has really impacted you, please, you can come off mute, you can put it in the chat, and share.
I'm happy to go first.
Okay.
My wife and I have been watching lots and lots of Native American history because we're getting ready for a big Native American festival, which our organization is sponsoring next March the 7th. And so we've seen a lot of videos, movies about the what so-called Trail of Tears,
Mm.
which some tribes call it the removal. And I was particularly moved the other day watching the story. A lot of people just don't understand what all happened, how bad that was. But when the Cherokees were literally jerked out of their beds and taken out of their houses by forced out with bayonets and marched off to from Georgia to Indian nations in Oklahoma.
Mm.
The they broke them into 10 groups like wagon trains, and there was one of them that they said all the children died
Mm.
and all the elderly died. So they arrived in the Indian nation without their future or their past, and that wording just gripped me.
Mm. Mm. Thank you for sharing that.
And I'm reading a book right now that's has uh, been very moving and affected me quite a bit. I haven't finished it, but it's called Song in a Weary Throat by Pauli Murray.
Mm.
And I don't know if you all know, but Pauli Murray was a activist who was from Durham. She was the first Episcopal priest, first Black Episcopal priest, and first woman. And she also went to law school during a time when not only did women not go to law school, but Black people weren't admitted to law school. And she had to fight to get all of the education. She's very educated, and she died, I guess, in the I think in the 1980s. Um, but the government and in Durham they were restoring her home as a museum. But this administration has decided that they were going to take the money away from the museum and the restoration project, and they're also wiping out Pauli Murray's history from the federal internet.
Mm.
And the reason why is because she was assumed to be gay and assumed to be transgender, although she never actually says that. But even if she did, why would they do that? But anyway,
Mm.
it's an amazing story. She's a beautiful writer, and she sort of brings that whole time period alive, that whole era. And it just reminds me of whose shoulders that I stand on, and to keep fighting. So mhm.
Yes. That's beautiful. Thank you. Is there one more person who wants to share? Okay. Okay. Well, Shauna.
Hello, everyone. Very excited to chat with you all this evening. And such a great opening activity, and because it really ties into what we're focusing on today, which is thinking about the power of storytelling and its role in narrative change. And that's really something that you all have been working on um, during this whole process. And so, what we wanted to do tonight was really take the time to kind of examine everything that you've been doing, everything you're working toward in another lens. So, you've been putting a lot of different lenses on in this experience to look at things that you've looked at before many other times. And so, we're doing that tonight. Um, I really appreciated that quote that you just shared, Lewis. I typed it down, arriving without their future or their past. And I think it's such a great illustration of the way that you share and tell a story can really impact what people take away from it. You know, it's tragic enough to hear all of the children and all of the elderly passed away. That's a terrible tragedy. But when you say they arrived without their future or their past, that's just another level of, oh my goodness. It's like it's not just what happened, but it's the impact of that. You know, the practical impact, the emotional impact. Um, and so when you think about that and think about the different way that people receive and understand information, and particularly in the complicated world that we're living in today, with so many very strong emotions and opinions around so many topics, and when you all are doing this work for a certain outcome, and a lot of the outcomes that you hope for on a broader scale relate to people changing their minds, people changing their behaviors, people changing the way they engage in the world. And so being able to understand how the way that you talk about something, the way you tell a story, the way you present might impact and reach people in different ways is a really strong tool that we want you all to get very comfortable with using and wielding in different ways. So one way that that's really coming together right now in the program is Emily and I are doing a lot of work around thinking about what comes next. You all are in our inaugural cohort. You're doing amazing work. And so for us, we would love the opportunity to think about, to continue supporting that. That just because the program ends doesn't mean that we can't continue to support the work that you've started here. So part of us being able to do that is how do we tell the story of what you all have been doing in a way that the people that could help us continue to do this and support it can understand the impact, not just what you did, but the impact of what you've done. Um, and that also it can help other groups, churches, people in similar situations and mindsets who might want to start taking some steps. Hear that you all have started this process, that it wasn't the end of the world, that it didn't destroy the church, and that if they wanted to, you know, dip their toe in the water, it might be safe to do so. So that's one of the things we're going to be starting tonight. And so there's a couple of different opportunities that are coming up for us that we want to reach out and ask your help for. And when I say opportunities, I mean opportunities to have the ear of others to share the news of this work. We haven't been talking too much about it other than reporting to the people who are part of the program that need to be reported to. But we think it's important to start sharing some of this. So what we're going to ask you all to do is we're going to have a first round of breakout groups, and we'd really like to be able to think about how you might express some things from your experience. If you were talking to other churches about, you know, what you've worked on so far, what some of the ideas that have come up in your group, what are some of the maybe thoughts or realizations or brainstorming that you've had as a result of kind of starting to walk through, hearing from some of the great people we've been able to hear from over the past months. We got to visit each of you and we saw a lot of the amazing work that you're already doing. And during our visits, some of you were started even thinking about how what you're doing in IDAT might bridge over and support some of the work that you're already doing in the congregation. So we've got a set of questions to kind of help you tease that out, but I wanted to set that frame that we're really thinking about how would we tell this story to others? Um, how would we tell them that this is worthwhile, that it's valuable, and that it's a step that they might take? So we're gonna do, let me see if we should, I don't want to get ahead of myself. So yeah, we'll start there with the reflection pieces, and then we'll come back to a part two later. But let me first stop and just say how to, in terms of just thinking about the framework of storytelling and narrative, how do you all feel around that? What would you say, and somebody just speak if you feel moved, is the difference between narrative and storytelling?
Well, narrative can just be simply relating the facts of what happened. Like a police report is supposed to be a narrative, but storytelling often involves presenting information in a way to make it most compelling and most moving to others. And that means you think about how the story is structured, who's featured, what you tell initially and what you withhold initially, maybe building to something.
Mhm. Excellent. I love that. Other thoughts? So what if instead of just the word, oh, go ahead, Margaret.
I was just going to say, I really like how Mary explained that because I had never really thought about there being a difference between a narrative and a storytelling, except that that a story is more interesting sometimes than a narrative. But yeah, that's an interesting distinction to make.
If we add a word in front of narrative, like broader narrative or social narrative, what does that then make you think of? Does that change anything?
Well, it gives you some insight of what you might be about to hear, I think.
Mhm. So a
And back,
common way, oh,
yeah,
go ahead.
I was saying back to the distinction, sometimes we think of narratives as more factual, and a story is something that might be, it could be fiction, it might not be, I mean, or it could be true,
Mhm.
it could be nonfiction. But I mean, those are just connotations of those words that we
Yeah.
have.
And I love that you say that because I think, language is always changing. And so there might be some core usages, core definitions, but also in a given moment within a given generation, there might be a special meaning or usage that's more common for a word that kind of fades away and doesn't stick around permanently. Looked like you wanted to add something to that, Becky.
Well, I was reflecting on years ago, I was at the Tennessee Williams Festival and wound up attending a panel discussion on short stories. And I had been perplexed by the fact that I love oral storytelling and I really don't like short stories. And somebody made a comment and said, everybody knows, one of the panelists, the difference between the two. And I was puzzling on that. And finally, someone asked the question, what is the difference? And the difference is that the short story is really structured. You'll all remember it from the 8th grade or whenever when they taught it to us, right? But a story is sort of like someone's going down in the road and things happen to them. And so it's more of a human process. A story is about what's happening in the lives of human beings, I think. And it can be told in a lot of different ways in a lot of different media. But ultimately, I think what's really compelling and maybe more interesting, as Margaret put it, is that it is personal. It is about what's happening for the people who are involved in it, but it's being shared in a way that can be observed, heard, sort of experienced vicariously by others.
Love that. And I feel like something that's kind of lifting up as we're talking through this is that there are a lot of different forms, a lot of different approaches to telling a story, to how you might receive a story. And narrative um, has come to be used in a little bit of a different way in recent years, right? Um, we certainly know about a narrative in terms of almost a narration of what happened and kind of fleshing that out and just kind of going factually. But also, narrative now is often used to think about um, the bigger story told by the combination of a series of smaller stories, right? So if we say, what is the narrative of, um, you know, Black people in the US? And then if we're listing off things that lead us to believe this broader story, and then what is contributing to this story or this impact? What is the narrative of um, immigrants and how they impact um, the US. And then when we ask a question like that, we find that people, depending on who you are and what you're influenced by and how you feel about things, might have different narratives about that, right? You might be influenced by a different series of smaller stories that have led to your bigger overall impression. And so when we think about changing harmful narratives, changing painful narratives that kind of hurt the goals that you want to achieve, then we think about what are the way that we tell and express smaller stories along the way that impact what a big overview story might be of an experience. You all got a little taste of that last month, right? With Tim, Dr. Love Moon, you looked back at some of the churches and the way they had written their particular histories, and how that one story that they chose to share on the website, right, on the particular page that he selected for review for the exercise. But if that's the story they put on their website, it's likely that it resembles a long series of the way they've been telling their story, right? So if you all notice that there were key things that were left out, there were key questions that were kind of unanswered, that there was a key perspective that was trying to be shaped by choosing to include or not include, and if there are a long series of stories being told in that way about how that church has engaged with their community, then the broader narrative of how that church engages with their community might not be seen as fully truthful or fully transparent with our future eyes when we can look back and see what's been withheld. And so the reason I'm pointing all of this out is we feel that the work that you're doing now to look at your church's current narrative, to think about ways that you might want to include or change ways, information that's been shared in the past, introduce new information, share more information about other facts that were already known. But that contributes not only to the overall narrative of your church, but it contributes to the work to change narratives broadly around faith, religion, social justice, race, and how they all interact. So we're going to go into an activity um, to start a reflection process. We wanted to start with some one individual time for you to think on these, jot some notes down, and then we'll pull you in your groups to kind of collect all of your thoughts together and think about what answers you want to make sure to highlight and amplify and build upon.
And yeah, if you have paper, you can take notes if you want to open up just a note thing on your computer or your device. You can do that in this time where we're first just going to have just quiet personal reflection. And then, like Shauna said, you'll go into your church groups and share and capture all of that. So let me share. Hold on a second. Okay. And we'll change the slide. We'll give you about 2 minutes on each question. question. Okay. Question. If you can move on to the next question. Okay. This is the last question.
Plant your feet upon the earth. Know your value, know your
Okay, so we are going to move into groups. Oop. Um,
What we'll do, well, I'm gonna just open 3 rooms, and St. Charles, you're 1, Wilshire, you're 2, Pulling, you're 3.
okay, and Shauna,
Mhm.
we need to share the let me
Oh,
put that in the chat. I don't know if anyone has gone to the group yet.
not yet. Hold on a minute. We need to share a link with you. So when
Okay.
you get this link, it's going to have the document that we talked about. It's just the same questions that you just saw on the slides, but it's we wanted to give some individual time because we know sometimes when you're in a group, it can be harder to have the conversation while you're still gathering your thoughts. So now your first goal when you walk in the room is click on this link, go to your shared document. All of you will be on the same document, and everyone kind of, if you had it digitally, you can copy paste your answer for each question in there. If you just want to type your notes, if you had them handwritten, whatever's easiest for you. If you prefer having a group secretary and everybody says it out loud, your style is your choice. But what we want to do is first give you the first few minutes to pull everyone's thoughts on each of the questions um, in place on the paper, so that then you can go back through the questions and kind of discuss, you know, what you felt, what you saw, what what's in common, what's not. Some of the questions, like that first one about your own personal experience, um, you're not necessarily trying to, come up with any kind of group discussion. But later on, you might see, as you're talking about some of the answers to some of the later questions, that there might be something as a group that you want to express, particularly around your church or some things you've done as an IDAT committee since joining the program. So that's kind of the lens we want you to use as you walk through this next activity. All right. With that, please feel free to click the link and then go into your rooms. That was St. Charles 1, Pullen 2, and Wilshire 3.
Sorry, Shauna, I never saw the link.
Oh,
Think
you don't have an invitation? So you can't get into a room? If you click, do you see breakout rooms at the bottom of your screen?
No.
We can move y'all.
I see it, but which one am I?
You are 1.
Hey, Charles. Thank you. Bye.
I also don't see the link. I saw it when it first came up and then it disappeared.
Okay, we can move you all in.
I heard it's trying to break out room 3.
Okay, Mary, you should.
Be
Do
in
you
room
see
3, right?
2?
Oh, 2. I've got it then.
Okay, there we go.
Let's come back together. Okay. Let's see. Okay. Um, okay. Shauna, you gonna
Sure.
this part? Okay. I'll put the stuff in the chat.
So, welcome back, everyone. Um, We are now going to have, and I know you may not have all finished your reflection questions, but we know that you'll be back in your groups and you'll be able to continue with that. We just want to give you a chance to kind of touch on a couple of different things tonight, and then you'll have time to build on those. So this is actually a very specific request, and this kind of builds on our storytelling and another key part of tonight. So one of the things, and I don't know if I can't remember if I specifically mentioned it, but I wanted to be clear, this time around as we're speaking, as we're talking about us starting to tell this story, one of the main ways that comes up is thinking about telling it to funders. We have current funders that we're required to report to for the work that's being done actively, but we're also wanting to think about what does it look like for us to try to be able to continue to fund this, looking outside of the Luce Foundation and the Ball Foundation that you all have heard us speak about that are helping with this work. If we wanted to continue and be able to continue to support any projects that you all may do at your churches outside of this, reaching out to them and seeking support for that. So a lot of that requires us being able to show what happened this first 18 months with you and demonstrate that it had some value. So that's what part of tonight is about, us being able to really understand, how have you been impacted? What's the best way for us to accurately and truthfully tell the story that you have had so far and make sure that your voice is the one being represented? Um, Another piece of that that we would like is, in addition to the written story, photos and other kinds of documentation. So we know that some were taken during our visits. We have some, not all were shared. So we wanted to take a moment and ask that if you all have any on your phones or computers now to share with us, we're going to drop in a phone number. If you're more comfortable, if it's on your phone and you just feel comfortable sharing it through text, you can do it that way. And if it's in your computer and you feel more comfortable uploading it to a shared folder, we've got shared photos, folders there. So whichever way you prefer, but we do ask that you share. And with that, before you do so, I will add, we will be sharing with each of you a media release form, not for tonight, but for you to go to the appropriate person at the church. Because as you all are doing this, and as you might do some activities and take pictures, we want to make sure that anything that you share with us, if you're comfortable doing so, is something that we have that release for. Our use will be, like, as we said, to funders, to leadership in our own organizations, but we also recognize that once we submit something like that, we have lost control of the image, right? So just making sure, and we know we've been on your sites, we see that you all are probably very familiar with this because you have tons of great congregational pictures and showing all of your activities. And I would imagine you have a similar process there with making sure that your congregants feel comfortable appearing in public photos that way. So that will be something we'll share with you later on, but we just wanted to give you the heads up. And as you're uploading photos now, if there are any that you wouldn't want to have appear, in our reports or anything like that, then you can skip over those. But any questions about that? So we take privacy very seriously, so we want to make sure nobody feels like they don't have a clear idea of the information.
And these are, you'll see within each photo folder, there's a folder that says site visit photos. So the photos that Shauna or I took during the site visits are in the site visit folder, but we know that some of y'all also took pictures during the site visits. Or you may have taken pictures at other times. Maybe you spoke to a Sunday school class. Maybe you already have done, an event. Maybe you saw something, somewhere that, you wanted to share with your church that reminded you of this program or something, so you can put in these folders. What we want to capture is this sort of photo narrative in a sense of your experience. So, that's why we're going to set aside like 5 minutes. We're going to send you back into your groups so you can have this like dedicated time. If anyone needs like extra technological support, you can ask within your group, or you can let me or Shauna know. We'll pop in to see that if anyone does. Is that good? Okay.
So hop in let's see. All rooms are open. Welcome back again. Thank you for that. Saw some stuff coming in. Appreciate the effort from everybody. Um, and yeah, we just know that there's some good stuff out there with all your beautiful faces, and we want to make sure that we
And now that I have the number, I'm just going to text mine to you because that's so much easier for me since they're on my phone. And
absolutely. So yes, that's my phone, so y'all don't have to worry about anybody else getting your text. So just get in and I'll have those. So thank you.
and I talked to Juliana, and she said she has been on Zoom since 3 o'clock this afternoon, and she's just exhausted.
We can relate. Thank you for sharing that. We absolutely understand. Sometimes
Okay.
you just got to take care of yourself, right?
Yeah.
Can't
Yeah.
all do everything all the time. So we absolutely understand and respect that. We're in the home stretch here as well. So
Mhm.
to kind of wrap up our evening as we think about narrative and storytelling, the last thing that we wanted to do with you all is share kind of a tool, I guess. It's around some websites. So actually, um, let me preview one. We'll start there. Let me share my screen. All right. Are you all seeing this this
Uh-huh.
site? So this is a preview site. And what we've been working on the past couple weeks is creating um, framing out, I should say, an IDAT site for each of the churches for a couple of reasons, a couple of purposes as we think about these as a tool. Um, the first is we are thinking about, and this kind of came um, as part of our visits and kind of hearing, just getting feedback and thinking about what we can do to be a better support. So one thing that we are presenting this to you for is thinking about, could a tool like this be a way to help facilitate you as IDAT committee communicating with your teams about what the program is and things that you're doing? Another way that we're looking at these sites is a way to share this work with the other team members and the leadership of our organizations that are running the programs, the St. Charles Center for Faith and Action and E Pluribus Unum, so that while Emily and I represent them as our organization, they're also always very interested to know what's going on. So being able to share that story with them, and finally being able to share the IDAT story with when we think about funders, sponsors, potential experts that might be guest speakers, anybody who has a way that they might enrich or support the program. It's always great to be able to show them, this is what we're asking of you, this is why we're asking, this is what we've done so far. So when we think about these sites, that's our idea for it, but also a way for you all to be able to share more easily with your congregations. This is who the committee is. This is what we've been doing so far. This is what we'd like to do in the future. Here's how you can contact us or be a part of it or share or any of those things. So you may or may not find that this is I guess each church will figure out whether and how this can be of use for you, but we wanted to start tonight off with showing it to you, walking through it a little bit, so you can see what we've done, hear some ideas, and then give you all a chance to kind of think about it. And especially if you think it can be useful for you, we wanted to particularly unveil it tonight as you do your final preparations for your June activities, because that could be a space for you to share it with your congregations so that they would know that they another way that they could stay up to date on what you're doing should you choose to use it in that manner. So each page that, we're about to share the links, but each of you has a page. It's got the home page on it. You all have an identical description of what the Indeed and Truth program is that we've already placed in there. And it links to the funders of the program as well as to the two organizations that are running the program. And then at the bottom of the homepage, there's a space for Meet the IDAT committee. And so that's what we're going to do tonight for you all to get comfortable with using the site is looking at how to do a picture and add your bio and information to that page so that you could share who you are as the IDAT committee. That's on the Home tab. Each page also has a programming tab, and these again are identical except for the church name and the pictures at the top. And that goes through and shows all of the programming you've done to date, so that if you're wanting to be able to talk to your congregation about who you've seen, what you all have talked about, it's all up there. And that might be something that sparks some ideas about things that the congregation might want to know more about. You've all got a news tab, and you can rename that. You can think about how you want to use that. But the idea for this site is to think about what does it look like for us to be able to share updates if we want to. So one of the things we'll do tonight, just to, and again, to practice you getting used to using the site, is you'll do an announcement about the June activity on the news page. And again, that's just to practice using the features. And then finally, right now, there's a contact page, and Emily and I will be popping around and seeing whether and how this can be useful. One idea is that if any of you wanted to have a space for some kind of feedback, connect a form or some way that congregations can get in touch with you. If there's an email that makes sense, we don't want to create more work. So we would want to think about how can this facilitate and support a system that already exists and that does not require, a lot of new labor and new attention. But if it can be helpful as a page to think about what it means for how congregation members can contact you directly and give feedback and get engaged, we can set that page up and help you set it up specifically for that purpose. And if right now you feel like that's not a need or that causes more trauma, we can hide that page. It doesn't have to exist. But we just wanted to walk you through and see what you're all going to find. So the first thing we're going to do right now, you're currently looking at what people will see when they go to the page, kind of like the public view. We're about to drop some links in the chat. In the folder, go to your specific church's link, and you're going to find yourself on the editing side, and we are going to do some editing together. All right. So,
Hmm.
Does everyone see where you're clicking?
Yeah. Uh, Hmm.
Let me
I'm not sure I'm in the right space. This is Margaret.
Okay, here.
Uh,
Here's the pull-in site. So that's pull-in. Let me do the here's the Wilshire one.
let me make sure they're all open if you're
okay. I think I didn't scroll down for enough here.
Okay.
Was
You got
on,
it.
I
And
clicked
same
on the wrong thing. This
Charles.
this is asking me to sign in.
Um,
let me
you
I
should.
double
don't want to, I don't
the
want to do
password.
that.
Fix that.
Okay, let me go back to the Wilshire.
Oh, sign in is required to edit. So you can link, but yeah, you would have to, I didn't realize that. So it does have anyone with the link can edit, but you do have to sign in.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not
Sign into
sure.
a Google account. Yeah. Becky?
So where are these websites gonna live? And what is the purpose of them?
Mhm. So they are currently hosted on the St. Charles Center for Faith and Action Drive. And the current plan, and again, you're all the inaugural group, so we'll work through it with you. And if it looks like it's best to change course as we learn more, then we will. But the current plan is that they would remain hosted there for the remainder of the time you're in the program and for a full year afterward, with the idea that you would continue to be able to have the support of the IDAT team with any kind of, strategic use or planning for it, but also that as you're developing any programming that might come out of your experience here in your church, that means there's probably also going to be an organic process of finding where information about that new programming would live in your church's current communication channels. But since the work will be new, there might be some time, there might be some transition before you figure out that permanent home.
Yeah. So right now these websites don't the only place they live are basically in our folders in our Google Drive. They're not live posted to the world anywhere. So you can decide. One hope is that we on EPU and St. Charles organizational websites and the pages that we have that talk about IDAT, our hope would be to be able to link to these pages once they are published so that people who are interested in the program, people who want to see, well, what happened in that first cohort can see, we can tell the story, but also y'all can tell the story. But that, if your group decides like we're not going to do anything with this, which you
And
don't have to decide right now, then, that's a conversation that can be had.
there are three clear audiences. We just want to
Yeah.
make sure. One is you all communicating with the congregation. That was some of the feedback that we got as we were on our visits, is the challenge of getting that information out. A lot of emails are sent. And again, does this mean that everybody's going to pay attention? No. But what it means is it's a place to have a more elaborate, detailed accounting of what IDAT is. You're not trying to find space on your current website or in your current newsletter to like lay out all the details. They're all there. So once you have congregation members that say, yes, I'm interested, I want to know more, it's easy to point them to a place where they can see everything. So that's one, is your congregation and you communicating with your congregation. The other audience, or a second audience, would be specifically St. Charles Center for Faith in Action and In Pluribus Unum. So Emily's organization and my organization, and the funder of the program, Luce and Ball. So that's because just as part of having a program, it would be a tool for further storytelling about what has taken place and reporting about what has taken place. And then the third target group that we think about is who can support the future of the program. So potential funders that are not funders yet that we might want to send out to and say, hey, would you do this program? Experts and theologians that have not been guest speakers that we might want to say, we would love to add you to our speaker list. We would love for you to talk to the IDAT group. Here's something to further explain what that program is. So I would say those are our three target audiences with this.
Okay.
Have you all been able to get in?
I did finally get in. This is Margaret. Okay.
Able to get in, and I bookmarked it real quick so I can get back to it if I lose it. So
Good. And then we'll always, we'll have a good system in place as well to get you through that. So I'm going to share my screen again. I'm going to share on our program site, but I want to walk you through a process of doing your bio so that we can do that together. So let me share again. There we go. Okay. So each of you are on your own church's site frame. And as you get more comfortable with it, you'll be able to do things like think about your colors. All of you had some sort of green. I was excited to see colors. What different colors can I put to match their colors? Everybody was some shade of green, which were all greens, mind you, but it just wasn't as weird as but again, and those are with different themes and things that come preloaded. So we kind of just chose one for each of you to set you up. But as you get comfortable, if you want to like get really funky with it and change it around, these will be your sites to do so. The screen you're sharing is kind of our version of this for the IDAT program. And so we'll use that as a test for now. So I'm going to our team page, but if you scroll down on your home pages, and you should all see something that says meet the IDAT team or IDAT committee. So you have different, there we go, empty spaces there that we want to eventually look like this. So let's do this together, shall we? You all should see a series of them that look this way. So kind of select one. You should be able to see when somebody else selects it because it's blue on there. It'll kind of highlight. So select one that someone else hasn't selected. And
Shauna,
Mhm.
I'm,
so,
so do we just select the first one?
and you'll probably, so if you select one, then you should see when somebody selects it. So right now I'm looking in the Wilshire one and I can see that Emily has selected the
Oh,
first one.
sorry, I'm out of there now.
Oh no, that's okay. But go ahead and select it again for me so that everybody can see.
Yeah.
So
Oh, I see her name up there. Yeah.
right.
Okay.
So she's
Okay.
going to move out of you all's way, but if you all each select one, then you'll see that someone has chosen it. You all can go back together and rearrange it alphabetically,
Okay.
however you want. That's easy to do. But for now, just grab one that no one else has grabbed, and put
Okay.
your click on it so that your team can see that you've selected it. Click on the word name.
Okay.
So I see one click in Wilshire.
Louis, where are you? Is Louis still in our?
Yes.
Okay, I do need to ask, I'm a little confused because when we first got in the group, IDAT, I went on a website like this and uploaded my picture and my bio.
Oh, that's
You mean did I really do that?
yeah, that's probably Mighty Networks, which is like an internal kind of bulletin board for us. So nobody who's not in this cohort can see that. Um, but it's good that you bring that up though, because it's kind of like we're not gonna, I mean, you can post on here what you want. We're not going to post every Zoom recording and every, resource list and all of that on these sites. But you get to think about what you want on this site for your church to see about the experience of this program. Or like Shauna said, it's the third day of June, and we hope that there are some June activities being planned in the work.
Right.
So maybe you want to make an announcement and just put that on here so that if someone asks, you can direct them, to this site once it's published. So
What we'll do.
yeah.
I'll also say too, for tonight's activity, we picked this bio because it's a good opportunity to upload a photo and practice with text. If you all decide you don't want your committee to be on the page at a different date, we can take that off. But for tonight's activity for a moment, I want us to actually walk through those steps because I want you all to be able to practice the activity of putting a photo in the place and using the changing the text on the pages.
Okay.
So on the page for your church, everybody click on name in a certain, and make sure you've all got a space there and just change your name. I don't see, let me see if oh, is this? There we go. I love Kathy's bio. Enroll.
Somebody did it for her, so.
And I'll do it here on this page just so you can see. So I have this is the exact same box that you're all typing in. For name, I'm just going to type test name. And for the role, test role. But it's just as simple as clicking on it and highlighting and typing what you want to type. And if you already have a bio written up that you want to share. And again, this doesn't have to be a professional and graduated with their bachelor's from here and there. There's nothing wrong with those. Those are amazing accomplishments. But this is also just thinking about further, what would you want somebody to know about you in relation to IDAT? Or if you have in your larger congregation and everyone doesn't necessarily know you intimately, what might you want other congregants to know if they're thinking about whether they're going to join in and work with you and attend anything that you might be doing for IDAT? You get to pick and choose what to put here. There, I just mean that to say there aren't parameters. You aren't limited to what you might traditionally consider to be bio information. And then, so you'll do the typing. And for those who haven't yet, to add a picture, you click on the plus, and it will give you some options to upload or to have it from your drive or to select an image, usually from the internet. Most of you, I'm assuming, might have a photo that you would want to use on your device, on your computer or device that you're using. So you could hit upload and it takes you to, it takes you to your files, and then you select it and it will populate.
Hmm.
And so I don't know who this person is or how I got their photo, but there we go. But is anyone having trouble with that piece? And we'll come around in groups too. But I just wanted to kind of show you that first. Let's see.
Hmm.
Not able to get to my desktop. I've got a photo I want.
Yeah, having trouble finding my
And
photo too.
so yeah. So good. And we're going to pop in. We're going to go back in groups in a moment so you all can finish like kind of playing with it. And then the only other piece I wanted to demonstrate to you in this broader section is how to add your announcement. It's not showing. So, oh, good. You can see it. Okay. So you all, I don't believe, have any text. So you would, if you select, and I'll do it on one of your pages. We're going to your news page. And you select, in this case, the updates on our work page, or excuse me, section. And you already have some. Good. If you wanted to add new text, this is the way you, does everyone see where it says insert on the right-hand side of the page?
Hmm.
I don't know if you can see where my arrow is moving
Oh,
around.
yes. Uh-huh.
So when you select a section, and I'm selecting this last text box here, and hit something in insert, it will go under where you have selected. So I just selected text box, and now you see a new text box here. I just selected image. Oops.
Okay.
No, and it's going to have me upload or select. So if I click here and select image, it asks me to upload an image. Sorry, Emily, you got to come with me again. So we upload Emily and she appears. If now that I've selected the square that Emily's in, if I select drive, it gives me the option to select things from my drive. So what I'm really showing you here is not so much for you to remember step by step, but to show that it's a very clickable process. You click where you want it to be, you go over and click what you want to enter, and it shows up there. But the main things we want is just for you to be able to think about how, if you feel comfortable putting the text and uploading the photos. And then we're going to pop around and kind of talk to you all about this for these last few minutes and about June, and then do any help with this that we need to do. So any questions here in the larger group before we break out and we pop around individually? All right. So then let's go back into these groups for you all to play with this a little bit and see how it might fit into your June activity. St. Charles 1, Pullen 2, Wilshire 3. Let's see if they're open back up.
Okay.